During a normal sinus rhythm, electrical impulses are initiated by the SA node. These impulses move through the top of the heart, the atria, causing an organized contraction. The orderly nature of these impulses gives us a nice organized P wave, like what you see here in the bottom left of the screen. With atrial fibrillation, or AFib, several cells in the atria decide that it's their turn to call the shots and initiate the electrical impulse. They fire in an unorganized manner. This causes an unorganized, seemingly random mess instead of a nice clean P wave like you see here in the bottom left. So when going to interpret a rhythm, the first thing I like to do is look at the regularity. So here, looking at this strip, the distance between our QRS complexes is not the same. It changes, and it doesn't seem to change with any sort of pattern either. So this is clearly an irregular rhythm. Next, I'm going to look at the atrial activity. How many atrial beats do you have? And looking at this rhythm, I can't tell. There's just a big mess in between those QRS complexes, so I don't see any organized atrial activity. So with that, I cannot count atrial beats, I cannot describe the morphology of the P wave, and I cannot measure a PR interval because there's no P wave. Finally, I'm going to look at the QRS complexes. They look narrow. They look like they're 0.012 or less, so they're happy. So looking at this with an irregular rhythm, with no organized atrial activity, narrow QRS complexes, that gives us AFib. Now, another version of AFib that you can have is known as rapid ventricular rate or response. In this situation, similar to the slide before, we have irregular rhythm with unknown atrial activity. So we have AFib clearly at the beginning. However, in this case, the atrioventricular node, the AV node that is sending those impulses down to the ventricles, is letting them go through at a much higher rate, greater than 100. So that gives us AFib with RVR. So this is just an irregular rhythm with unknown atrial activity with a rate greater than 100, AFib with RVR. To review, looking at this rhythm strip here, we're going to see that it is irregular. That is not the same distance in between all the QRS complexes. We're going to see that there is no organized atrial activity, which means we do not have a PR interval to measure. We do not have P waves to describe their morphology. We also have nice narrow QRS complexes, which means everything's happy going through the ventricle, which gives us AFib.